so many bad books to read. And welcome in, everybody, to the Bad Reads Book Club. Hi, I'm Nurse Huckleberry. Bad Reads Book Club is where I read a book voted on by chat. I report back on it, and then I tell you what I think about it. This month, I read Wicked All Night, a night rebel novel by Janine Frost. A little reminder, we do turn off the alerts and stuff for this portion, so I'm not too distracted. I'm going to try and keep my eye on the time and burn through this one because we're running behind already. But so I read the book. Boy, was it a book. Also, I think it's like the third in a series, and I did not read the other two. So there's a bunch of stuff that happened that I'm really not sure exactly why or how it happened, you know, but here we are. So, you know, I don't think we're really gonna need the trigger warning, Moose. There is, I'll say, fantasy, kind of mild gore maybe, but it's pretty chill in that world. So I figured I might as well introduce the characters that are gonna, like, I'll just tell you about them first. The ones that play the kind of the biggest role. So first, we got Veritas. Veritas is our primary female protagonist. There she is. She's half human slash half god of the Netherworld turned vampire. She has powers that she can control water and blood, unleash a river of darkness and despair. She can fly, general vampire super senses, freezing objects in time, general magic, super healing herself, and she can throw souls directly into the Netherworld. Her weaknesses are that she must drink blood, a silver dagger to the heart, and she's kind of stupid. Thank you. Up next, we have Ian, a master vampire, and new husband to Veritas. Yeah. Now, Ian's a master vampire. He's got some special skills. He can teleport. He's got all the regular vampire powers, flying, and super healing. His weaknesses are also a silver dagger to the heart. It has to be destroyed by the dagger. And he's a bit dense. All right, next up we've got Ashael, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of these. Well, I think I got Ian right. But Ashael, who's a half demon, half god of the Netherworld. Wait, where is it? Half demon, half god of the Netherworld, and Veritas's half brother. They got the same dad, the god of the underworld. Same dad. So his powers, he's got demon magic, super senses, he can teleport, but on the downside, he has to be invited into buildings. Sunlight. And he can be killed with demon bones directly to the eyeballs. That's how you kill him. 2 demon bones straight to the eyes. I wish I was making this up. And last but not least, we have bad boy Fain's. Fain's is Veritas's betrothed, a demigod from another world. He's got these huge golden wings, which I couldn't find a picture with golden wings that worked, but he's a real lover boy, okay? He's got super strong magic. He's immortal. He can teleport and fly. And his weaknesses, currently unknown. So yeah, I didn't put a name on him. I should have, but I forgot. So our story starts out with Veritas and Ashael are trying to save Ian from dying. Ian's looking real dead right now. Now, they had just had some intense battle with a demon from the previous book that I didn't read. This demon called Dagon, who apparently had killed Veritas like 1,000 times. Anyway, so I don't know. There's something about that guy, and he hurt Ian real bad with some crazy magic or something. So they've been trying to heal him for a while, and he's just like not getting better. And she's outside on the beach being like, how can I make him better? When all of a sudden, guess who shows up? Fain shows up, and he's like, hey, honey, look, I've got this whole thing. You know, I was hoping you could help me out. Hey, did you know that we could get so apparently back when Veritas, before she was born, her father was like, hey, I'm gonna arrange a marriage with you with someone, and that someone was Fain's, and she was like, fuck that, and she married Ian anyways. Okay, so she's married to Ian. Fain's is like, it's really embarrassing to have my betrothed married to someone else. I don't even want to be married to you. Why don't we get this annulled? And she's like, fuck yeah, I would love to get it annulled. He's like, cool. See, here's the thing. Your dad has to do the annulment. Yeah, he kind of like set the whole thing in motion. He's got to be the one to undo it. So the problem is, your dad kind of in prison, his own prison. He's been made a prisoner in the netherworld. And she's like, oh shit, that's kind of my fault. Yeah, because when they were fighting the guy Dagon, apparently he did kill Ian. And then Veritas went to Daddy and was like, hey, can you bring him back? I really don't want him to be dead. And then Daddy was like, okay for you, honey, but there's gonna be consequences. And she didn't know what they were, and now he's in jail. So she's like, fuck, okay, look, you help me bring Ian back, and then I will go with you to do whatever thing you need me to do, and we'll sort that out, okay? And he's like, cool, great. So they go, and he's like, sweet, I just need you for like a day. I just need you to come for one day and help me with this thing. And she's like, yeah, sweet, great. So he goes and he saves Ian. Great, he's fine now. And he's like, oh, I'm awake. And then Fain's is all, great thing, hot cheeks, we gotta go. So they go to Fain's island, which looks like Mount Olympus. They're at Mount Olympus, and she's like, wow, this looks a lot like what I would imagine Mount Olympus to look like. What a crazy thing. What kind of crazy magic is going on here? Get a Shale and Ian out of here. They're not in this part. Yeah, Fain's and Veritas. There you go. He's like, hey babe, here, come to my giant castle. And he's like showering her with gifts and stuff. And he's like, yeah, this is super great. And he's like, just pretend you're my fiance for a little bit, because the people think that we're supposed to be together. They don't know, right? And so she goes and she's like, okay, fine, but like I would really like to get back sooner than later. And he's like, okay, well, you promise. So they go, and we're just stay here for a second. So they're here, and a few hours go by, right? And they're having a nice time feasting. There's like little creatures running around, a lot of people, and then all of a sudden, Ian shows up with a Shale. All of a sudden, Ian shows up, and he's like, I'ma fucking kill you, bro. And Fain's is like, how did you get to my land? And he's like, well, I have the right to safe passage if I beat your champion. And so I'm gonna beat your champion. And so then they go to a big coliseum. They go to a big coliseum, and then Ian has to battle against Fain's champion, and that champion is a Minotaur. But all of a sudden, Ian's got like superpowers. Like, I mean, he has like normal powers as a vampire, but he's got like way crazy strength, beyond vampire strength. And really, Veritas doesn't even know how he's doing this. She's like, holy shit, Ian, you're so super strong. I didn't know that you could do that. And he's like, yeah, well, whatever. So she tells Ian, hey, I'm just here for a few hours. And he's like, hello? You haven't been here for a few hours. You've been here for 3 weeks. Turns out time works differently in other worlds. She thought that she was still on Earth, but Fain's had actually transported her to a different world. And so, yeah, he's like in the world of the gods, okay? And so, yeah, time runs a lot different. So even though it's been like 4 or 5 hours for her, it's been 3 weeks back on Earth. So Ian got real worried because they just left with nothing. Anyways, so they show up and they're ready to battle, right? Ian destroys the Minotaur. Ian absolutely just kills him. And so then Fain's is like, okay, fine. Guess you can come in. So, and then Fain's is like, hey, here's the thing. You can get into the Netherworld because you're like daughter of the god of the Netherworld. So I'm gonna need you to take us into the Netherworld so we can go talk to your dad. And she's like, and also remember he's in prison. And she's like, you have to prove it to me that he's in prison. So then he like takes her to this special veil thing. And he's like, here, look. And then he shows her dad in chains. And she's like, oh shit. Let's get daddy out of there. So she and Ian, they're like, how do you go to the Netherworld? You have to be dead. And he's like, it's okay, we could be kind of dead. So they take some kind of potion and do spectral projection or something. Anyways, they go into the Netherworld. And so they go in there. And then, of course, once they're in the Netherworld, right? Just immediately, you know, they get kind of far in there. They get close to where they're supposed to be, and then Fain's is like, "You idiot! Why the fuck did you trust me, you loser? I was going to betray you every time. I was going to betray you the whole time." And so he's like, "Hey, there's these two gods that I used to work with, and I'm kind of thinking about working with again, an ice queen and a king of volcanoes. We're gonna go now." And so they leave Veritas and Ian to be killed in a pit of monsters and netherworld acid, right? And he runs off with these two gods, and they're just like, whoop, out of here. And his plan was to steal the bodies of Veritas and Ian for their souls to just whoop into, right? So he's gone, whoop. So then Veritas and Ian are still, they're battling their way out of the Netherworld. They're trying to figure out what happens. And guess who shows up? Daddy! Daddy shows up and is like, what are you doing? And she's like, I thought you were imprisoned. And he's like, no. Why would you think that? She's like, well, Fain showed me you being in chains. And he's like, yeah, it's called an illusion, dude. Here's some extra magic so you won't be confused by his illusions anymore, and you can see through his magic. And he's like, yeah, I had to put some restrictions on myself, you know? Like, I can't just be letting anybody out. Like, you brought Ian back here again. You know, like, but now, because of you, we're missing 2 souls. So get back out there. Here's some special handcuffs. You get back out there. You catch those 2 rogue gods, and then you put the handcuffs on them, and they'll just come straight back down, okay? That's what it's going to be. And she's like, Jesus, okay. So they go and they meet back up with Ashale, and they manage to make their way back to the human world. But yeah, so Fain's is, now it's revealed that Fain's wants to take over the world. That's just his little fun time, is taking over the world. So they make it back to the mortal world, and they seek help of their vampire friends, Spade and Denise. I don't have pictures of them. They are vampires. So vampires and demons are enemies. So they're not happy to see their demon half-brother who's around. Not happy to see the half-brother demon guy. And like, they have this house that's got all these demon defense systems, including like really bright UV lights. As it turns out, Denise, the wife, made a deal with a demon at some point, and so she's kind of cursed. And so they really don't want demons coming by to collect on that. But yeah, eventually they let him in. Mind you, they're like super tired. Okay, Denise is a human, and we'll go with maybe Veritas, a little hungry. So she starts smelling that sweet, sweet neck blood and is like, "Hello, ma'am. Could I just sip from you a little bit?" So they bring her a bunch of cups of blood, just cups. Actually, at first they bring her a teapot full of blood in cups. It's just a very weird scene where she's like chugging blood out of a teapot. And they're like, why would you give a hungry vampire blood in a teapot? That's ridiculous. That's so rude. So, anyways, so they recuperate a little bit. They get some blood back in them, recuperate a bit, and then they're like, oh man, we should probably round up some troops and like save the world, you know? So they start trying to like get in contact. They update Spade and Denise on what's going on. They're at Spade's house. Actually, we have that scene. They're at Spade's house. They're in a fancy bougie house. And they like tell them what's going on, and they're like, oh yeah, we should probably do something about that. Now here's the thing, Veritas is she's a mixed being. She's half vampire, half something else. And the vampires are like, illegal. That's illegal. You don't get to be mixed. And she's like, well, I don't really have a choice. And they're like, you shouldn't exist. Also, vampires shouldn't do magic. And so she's been like trying to get basically like a bunch of political laws changed so that she doesn't have to like hide in the shadows anymore. There's like this whole undercurrent of politics throughout the book. Vampire politics. Anyways, so they start rounding up the troops and they like are calling people to see if they'll show up. Eventually, Veritas and Ian are just like, wow, this has been so fun. But you know what sounds great? Would you want to go and just bang? Do you want to go and bang somewhere? And so they just destroy a bedroom with their sexual hijinks. Yeah, they just trash it. And that's supposed to be a normal thing. So, and then it's finally revealed that Ian's crazy powers he had, remember how he had superpowers that were like way too good for being even a vampire? His crazy powers were because he ate fruit from the forbidden tree of Eden. He ate fruit from the tree and it gave him godlike powers for a day. And he can still use those powers, but every time he uses them, the powers are trying to kill him. So it's a bad thing that he ate the fruit, but now he's got superpowers, but he can only use so much and then he'll just die, you know, and like die a lot. Not like, because vampires, they can get turned to ashes and come back or something. Yeah, and also that power is conveniently used to close some plot holes later. It's very used liberally throughout. Okay, so, but then they decide, they're like, hey, we gotta go win over let's me back to the book club room. They decide, we gotta go win over the vampire council, right? And so they go, they're like, hey, why don't we talk to your old girlfriend, Veritas's old girlfriend, Jun Guan, a very powerful vampire from like the Jin dynasty. She's old. They track her cell phone to an abandoned building in Athens, and then they go to Athens, and they're like, oh, we'll see if we can find her. And they do find her in a room laden with booby traps set for them. Turns out, while they were stuck in the netherworld, Fain's was running around with the two gods, and Fain's, who is a master illusionist, was able to make himself look like Veritas. And so he snuck in and he kills two of the council members disguised as Veritas. So they all pinned it on her. They think she's the one who did it. So now Veritas is a fugitive once again. And she's trying to explain to Jun, hey, no, actually that wasn't me. I didn't do the killing, okay? It was Fain's. Let me explain. And eventually she kind of gets Jun to get on it. And she's like, look, like for one, you know that if I was going to kill anyone on the Vampire Council, it would be this guy and not that because this guy sucks. So why would I go and risk everything, killing someone on the vampire council, and not take out the one guy I fucking hate, right? Anyways, So as it turns out, the vampires are like, shoot, we gotta elect new people to the council, right? So they go to, they're having a council meeting, and they're like, oh my god, they're having a council meeting right now? Fain's is gonna kill all of them. Fain's is gonna kill all of them, okay? And so they're like, shoot, we gotta get there right away. So they go, and Zun's like, pretend to be my prisoners. And so they're like, okay. And so they're her prisoners, and she gets them in. And as soon as they get in, Ian, for whatever fucking reason, is like, yeah, that guy, I'm just gonna kill him. I'm just gonna kill that guy. So he runs up and just stabs him. And then everybody's like, whoa, gonna stab each other. So Veritas, of course, has to use her power of stopping time and just stop time for the whole room. And so now they're all stopped, and except Ian's not time stopped for whatever reason. And he's like, hey, Veritas, could you unstop the time on the heads of the council so we could have a chat with them? And she's like, bro, why the fuck did you kill that guy? And he's like, yeah. But first, you wanna undo the heads? And she's like, okay, fine, it's really hard, but whatever. So she does, and they're all like, bro, why'd you kill that guy? And he's like, let me show you. And then he's like, okay, hey, babe, do you think you could unstop time on the rest of him? And she's like, oh, fine, okay. So then he's like, yeah, he's got a mark on him somewhere. Let me take a look. And he's like, yeah, I bet it would be on his hairy ass. And he just rips his pants off and shows this guy's ass to the council because apparently it was marked by a demon. Turns out he was actually a mole for a demon all along because he'd sold his soul however many years ago, and he was no longer just a regular vampire, so he wasn't actually dead from getting stabbed with the knife, the silver knife to the heart. And then they confirmed that he is in fact a demon by tasting his blood, because apparently the blood of demons causes a slight narcotic effect on the vampires, and they're like, oh yeah, no, he's a demon for sure now, fuck. So then they like kind of garner their trust a bit, but all of a sudden Veritas falls into a fucking pit in the floor full of flames, and she's like, what? Yeah, that's right, the volcano god was there too, and he turned the mountain that they were on, that was not a volcano before, into a volcano. And so she had to use her powers of time stopping to try and hold the entire mountain together to make sure that nobody was killed, right? And she's like, quick, Ian, Ashel, you two use your teleportation power to zap all the people out of the room, and then go get this guy Menerkis or whatever, and Dracula. Just fucking Dracula. Go get him too. And so they show up, and she's like, good, Dracula conveniently has the power to control fire. And other guy, conveniently, incredibly strong telekinesis, and will be able to hold the mountain together. Anyways, so the three of them, or all of them, 5 of them, I guess, work together. Veritas is doing her very best to keep the time thing going, but then all of a sudden she starts like sweating blood and is like getting real gross and like really about to faint, and then eventually she just passes out, and they take her back to Spade's house. They manage to get all of the council and all the people there out, and they managed to save all the people in the general vicinity because there's a lot of humans around too. So they go back to Spade's house, and yeah, let's see what happens then. Right. So then they're like still trying to get more people on board with being, they like recoup, and they're like, hey, okay, so who all do we have on board? Why don't we try and call Marie, the queen of ghouls and see if we can get a meeting with her, because it'd be really great if we could get the ghouls on our side. Like, I know that the ghouls and the vampires have been fighting for the last many years, many centuries, but like, if we could get the ghouls to work with us, this would really help. And so they're like, okay. And Ashael is like, yeah, I could do it. And they're like, no, Ashael, you don't want to do that. What are you talking about? Like, you can't do that. So Ashael's like, okay, fine. And they try a bunch of times and they can't get an audience with her. And then Ashael's like, boop, 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 boop. Hey, babe, would love to chat. Can we get a time? And she's like, yeah, okay, fine. And he's like, yep, she owes me. So then, of course, the ghoul queen who runs the ghosts and the ghouls lives in New Orleans. So they go to New Orleans. There they are, Louisiana, right? There's lots of dead souls around for whatever reason. They love New Orleans. Nolans. There's so many dead people here. Lots of dead people in Nolans, so that's where she is. Anyway, she's got real strict rules about who can come and who can go, whatever. They go and they meet with her. And as it turns out, she's double booked. With who? The Ice Queen. The Ice Queen lady. And she's like, yeah, I don't want to hear about your god thing, whatever. Like, there's this Ice Queen that is wanting to offer me stuff. And so the Ice Queen's like, which we have a picture of the Ice Queen.
What is the Ice Queen's name?
I think it's just Ice Queen.
Oh. This looks like an Ice Queen. Excuse me.
she's a little sussy. Oh, Morana. I couldn't remember. So, Ice Queen. Hello. And in the book, she had the wings, and she was super hot and really pretty. So, Ice Queen's like, hey, Marie. Like, I want to rule the whole world, but, like, I don't actually want to rule the whole world. I'm just kind of more interested in Eurasia in general. And, you know, do you want to rule North and South America? Because, like, I'm not really interested in it, but I'd really love for somebody that I, like, trust to kind of run that part. So, like, if you'd be interested in running North and South America, then, like, I could take on Eurasia. And Rurameko, the, like, volcano guy, yeah, he just wants, like, Australia and the Indo-Pacific. Yeah, hunky. Oh, my God. Yeah, he just wants to rule the, kind of Indo-Pacific. Lots of volcanoes. Wherever the volcanoes are, he's into them. And then, yeah, Fain's, he's just all about the Mediterranean. So if you want, like, North and South America, it's all yours. And Marie is like, okay, hold up. Excuse me. That land is not yours to give. It's already stolen land. And I am not going to be the ruler of twice stolen land. Okay? Not my style. So you can go ahead and get out with your whole stolen land shit and get wrecked, because I'm not about it. And Ice Queen did not like that. She was like, you will pay for this. Shouldn't have done that. So she sends out an icy blast that freezes everything in like a 10-mile radius or something. I don't know. She freezes a bunch of people. And Marie is pissed because she gets turned into a block of ice. Luckily, Veritas is water bend. She's a water bender, so she can break the ice, and she breaks herself, and she breaks all the people out of ice, and then she and Ashael have to go around the whole town and break all the other people out of ice because they're stuck in blocks of ice. And so they go and do that, but they've garnered Marie's favor at this point, and Marie is like, yeah, you know what? While we're dealing with this war with these gods, sure, the ghouls will tag team with the vampires. We're friends now, okay? It's fine. We could be cool. Okay. But yeah, so she declines. In the freezing low chunk New Orleans, killing people. Ashael and Veritas control water. Okay, so then they have to go back to the Vampire Council, and they're like, hey, will you agree to work with the ghouls? Because the ghouls said that they work with you. This is a serious threat. Hello, members of the council. would you agree to work with the ghouls? Because the ghouls said that they'd work with you. This is a serious threat. And they're like, oh, I really don't want to work with the ghouls, but fine, I guess we will. And she's like, also, just, since I've got you here, I was, if you would consider pushing through a little bit of legislation, because do you think we could vote maybe on making it not illegal to be born mixed? You think we could make that a thing where it's not illegal just for me to exist? Because that'd be cool. And there's like some pushback, but eventually they're like, yeah, okay, fine, yes, it's not illegal for you to exist anymore. And then she's like, okay, that's great. Also, do you think it'd be okay for vampires to do magic? I know you're like kind of against it. I know you don't like vampires doing magic, but you had somebody on council who was doing magic anyways. And like, think about all the great things that we could do with the magic that could help a lot. And they were like, fine, vampires can do magic now. And she's like, yes, great. So, they get the vampire council and they go back to Spade's house. Because that's home base for whatever reason. They go back to Spade's house and they're like, okay, sweet. Let's figure out between us and the ghouls and the ghosts and whatever. Let's try and figure out where these guys are, because they could be literally anywhere in the world. And eventually they hear from some ghosts that they're in Mongolia. It's where the gods are. So then they're like, okay, if we can get people together, we've got this one guy that can transport 1,000 people at once. So we'll get him. We got the guy that can control the fire, the guy that can help with the earthquakes. This is nice. This team's coming together great. We got Ian. You still got that super strong power, but you shouldn't use it. Ashael, you do demon stuff. You do the demon stuff. And then, Veritas, you remember that whole thing where you're still the daughter of the god of the netherworld? Yeah, you could probably use some of that dark magic here and there. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about like ripping some souls out and throwing them to the ground or something? Yeah, let's do that. So, they go to Mongolia. And I think it's labeled NVET, yeah. So they go to Mongolia and immediately fall into a trap. Immediately. And they're at this big mountain where there's ruins, and they're at a big mountain with ruins, and they're like setting up their stuff. And for whatever reason, it's just the three of them that have shown up so far. Immediately get caught in a trap. Veritas is like in some magic web that she can't get out of, like a big net, basically. And it's interesting because it doesn't really stop her from doing anything except running. She can do everything but run. So, whatever. Ashael and Ian are able to teleport in and out of the magic net. So, they do whatever they're going to do. The gods eventually come down and they're like, we caught you now. We're so going to kill you super dead. Right? And they're like, no, don't kill us super dead. And Ashael is like, hey, I'm a demon and I'm gonna trick you so good. So he pretends to betray Veritas and Ian. Can somebody put some trunks on this man? Please? Oh, God. So he's like pretends to betray them, and there's like crazy stuff going on. The Ice Queen is just hurling ice balls, right? The ice is happening, just blasting everybody frozen. Veritas is trying to like free herself from the freeze constantly. Freaking Naked McGee over here is making the volcano do volcano things. It's rumbling, there's fire happening. They get Vlad, who can control fire on their side. He's got a fire dome going on, trying to keep everybody warm from Ice Queen up here. So he's doing that. Meanwhile, you got the telekinetic guy, and they're like, hey, why don't you rip trees up and just throw them at the Ice Queen? Just throw trees at her. And so he's throwing trees at the Ice Queen. and water and stuff. And eventually they get these special handcuffs on the volcano god, and he just gets sucked down to hell. So he just goes whoop, goodbye. Yep, there he goes, gone forever. And so they're just still dealing with the Ice Queen and Fain's, because Fain's is there fighting. And Fain's and Ian are going at it, and Ian's using the superpowers from the cursed fruit, and they're fighting each other. And Ian is like ripping off his limbs, Fain's limbs, and he rips off his wings. And Ashael is like, Fain's, I was always on your side. He's got a power in him. He'll totally kill you if with that power in him. You just gotta rip it off him, and then you can have that power. Like, I don't even like this guy. He fucking sucks. Like, totally take that power from him. And meanwhile, Ian is lost in the sauce. Ian is just so like enamored with the power. He's lost it all. He's gonna die if he doesn't stop using this power. And Fain's is a greedy boy, and he's like, yeah, I totally want that power for myself. And so he takes the power and rips it off of Ian and keeps it for himself. But then turns out he can't actually absorb it and use it himself. Ha ha ha, Fain's, you stupid stinky idiot. You were wrong. And your wings, as it turns out, the power of the fruit told Ian that Fain's power was completely held only in his wings. And so by ripping the wings off, it meant that Fain's is now forced to live as a mortal. And they were like, we could kill him, but it'd be more fun for him to have to live out a mortal life and like deal with sickness and stuff. Yeah. And so they make him live out a mortal life as his punishment. Yeah. And they manage to catch Ice Queen. She gets caught up in a I guess like the coming of spring, essentially, where she gets trapped in the swirling waters and trees. And they put cuffs on her, and she also goes back down to hell. Yeah, so then they go back to Spade's house, and they're like, wow, good job, everybody. That was really nice. Get Fain's out of here. He's whatever. And they're like, good job, everybody. That was really great. And then the end of the book is just Ian and Veritas being like, hey, you want to bang? Yeah, let's just go do that now. And that's the end of the book.